So in this area, it is the hometown for growing the Aksu apples. You can see they're very mature and red, so it's very fruitful in this area. There are many forest trees in Aksu, and for each mu, it can generate at least 5,000 RMB for the farmers. So it actually helped to feed the farmers in Aksu region. Also, there is a very high technology to grow these trees. There are 4 meters in gap between the trees. Let's take a closer look in the garden. We see a vast land of green. For this grass, we will put it into the soil and use it as the fertilizer to provide nutrition for the trees. There are not too many apples in these trees, so for each one of the tree, we have around 200 apples. Even though it is not a large amount, but we can see each one of them is very mellow and sweet. And also all of these apples can enjoy the sunlight. In this season, it's actually the harvest season for Aksu apples. We see many farmers picking apples here. And for these beautiful ladies, they're actually the Uyghur girls from Aksu. In this season, we gather different minority groups. They will enjoy the harvest season of the apples. And all of these apples will be sold to every corner of China. I feel very pleased with this harvest scenery. I also want to pick one of the apples on my own. Can I get this one? Let's check it out. It's very red. And also it has a very thin frost. It will be very tasty. I also want to introduce the piece of land here. I'm in Kokyar village of Aksu region. So this is in the western area of Aksu. So now you can see a large piece of land and the forest and apple trees here. However, 30 years ago, this area is just a barren land and was covered with the sandstorm. You couldn't believe it. 30 years ago, we have started the afforestation project in Kokyar with the dedication and efforts from the local people, so we see the difference in this area. So that's the theme of today's live streaming. So today we're not just introducing the apples, we also want to talk about the stories and the history of Kokyar. And we also want to talk about their dedication for Kokyar's development. And today we also have many special guests to tell the stories of Kokyar. So please say hi to everyone. This is Secretary Liu from the local government. Thank you for watching. Now, yesterday I contacted Mr. Liu, and he said that it is his first time to be on the screen, and he was quite nervous. So Mr. Liu is a vice secretary for the local government in Aksu City. And we also have the other guest. So Mr. Peng is a senior engineer from the Afforestation Bureau of Aksu. And this one is also the vice director of the Agriculture Department of Aksu. Please please say hi to everyone. Hello, everyone. Yesterday when I talked to them, and this gentleman feel very nervous about the live streaming, but actually we're quite relaxing. I have just talked about a lot of plants in this region. 30 years ago, these 3 people actually has already started to work in the afforestation project. I just want to understand what are your positions. Actually, we start working in 1986. We work in counties. In 1986, I'm still a student, but I joined the afforestation project in 1989. I used to work in the utility section, and I also joined the afforestation project. And we also have 2 respected guests today. Hello, Mr. B. "32 years ago, the afforestation project started. And we have Mr. B, one of the decision makers, to start the afforestation project. Let's see the camera. We have tons of audience watching the live streaming. Hello, everyone. I used to work for the afforestation project, and also I'm from the Afforestation Commanding Center. I feel very happy to see the progress of the afforestation in Kokyar. Mr. B is 83 years old now. "32 years ago, he used to work in the forestry department of Aksu. Actually, he doesn't have time to sit in the office. He is at the front line to help with the afforestation in Kokyar. Even though he is 83 years old now, but we can see he's quite fit. And today, it is of our great honor to invite Mr. B to join our live streaming. And even though he's 83 years old, but he's still working for the desertification project. So we just heard that Mr. B has returned to Aksu lately. That's why we contact him immediately, because we really want him to attend our live streaming. Hello, everyone. I'm also one of the members who are working for the afforestation project for Kokyar. We feel very happy to see today's Kokyar. It develops very well. And for Mr. Imamu, he's also over 70 years old. There are a lot of stories, so later we will share these stories. And the next guest is one of the shelter in the Kokyar region. So when I first joined the afforestation project, I was only 25 years old, but now I'm over 50 years old. Please remember the names. We should remember these names, because they are actually marking the progress for the afforestation in Kokyar region. So maybe today we can take Mr. B to see some of the latest achievements and progress in the Kokyar region. So what it looks like 30 years ago? Well, it is a barren land, full of sand and soil. We don't see many greens and plants. And when we step into this land, we can feel the sand, and the sand are filled into our shoes. I still recognize you, even though I'm already 83 years old. And for this gentleman, he's also one of the leaders of the afforestation project. Thank you for your contribution and dedication in the past 30 years. Mr. Zhao is actually the owner of this garden. I can see many apples on the main branch of the trees. These apples can enjoy very thorough sunlight. You know, sunlight is very important to help to grow the vegetables and the fruits. But still, we want to pay tribute to the previous leaders. Because of dedication, we can develop this land and grow trees and plants. So 30 years ago, I cannot imagine there is a day that this land can be turned into an orchid, a garden. I feel very happy to see these apples, these fruits, because all of our efforts have been paid back. I'm so surprised to see this land. We have expanded the land and turned it into a green land. So we are using the cutting-edge advanced technology to grow these trees. So even though we are not growing these apples in large quantity or large amount, but still we can ensure the quality of these apples. So we have just mentioned that for the distance between the two sidelines of the trees, there is 4 meters, and some of the vehicles can also be traveling inside of the garden. And for these vehicles can help trim the trees and also fertilize the trees. So probably next year, we can use some of the vehicles to pick the apples, and it will save a lot of time and be more effective. Currently, we are picking these apples manually. However, in the future, we will use the electric vehicle to pick the apples. It will save time and it will be more efficient. So you can see all of these trees, they're actually enjoying a thorough sunlight. We are trying to use a more high-tech skills to grow these trees, but still it costs a lot. So we are still testing this kind of technology to grow the apple trees. And for example, you can see the grass here, and later on we will use this grass as the fertilizer to provide nutrition to the trees. And today we're just checking out the apple trees in Aksu area. Well, I can feel the air is quite fresh. And also I can smell the scent of the apples. It's very refreshing and delightful. Actually, it is quite touching. For Kokyar region, it suffered from the sandstorm for many years. This area is actually surrounded by the mountains in Aksu region. So you can think of how huge it is, the sandstorm in this area. However, 30 years later, you can see this area has completely changed. And nowadays, there are many villages still remember the name of Mr. B. I still remember the spirit of the Kokyar, that is self-dependence and hardworking and enterprising spirit. So one of the villagers actually invited Mr. B to be a guest. So let's visit the villager right now. And we have also built the green shelterbelt in order to prevent the sandstorm in Kokyar region. And also I'm so surprised that the apples can grow so well in this region. In the past, this area is just a barren land, but now we see the large mountains and also the forest. In the past, we see a lot of sandstorms in this area, so this area is basically a wasteland. So 30 years ago, we started to pave roads and plant trees and make this area much greener. So let's get into our vehicle and travel to the villager's home. I think Mr. B is quite fit. If you're not telling me your age, I cannot think you're already like 80 years old. Alright, see you soon. We will travel to the villager's home. Now we are traveling to the village. And for the villager, it is called Kokyar. So for the previous generation of him, is actually also one of the members in the afforestation project. So when he heard Mr. B is at the Aksu region, they would like to invite Mr. B to visit them. And for this villager, they grow 7 mu of apples and 8 mu of walnuts. And these plantations and the fruits also bring wealth to the villages. And today we are at the Aksu City, and we'll bring you the live streaming from CCTV Plus and also the CGTN. And today our theme is the story of Kokyar. This is a magical land. 30 years ago, this area is just a barren land and a wasteland, and also there is very severe sandstorms happening in this area. However, 32 years later, let's check out the sceneries from the window. You can see tall trees and the pine trees. And for all of these trees, they are actually planted at the beginning of the afforestation project. And also we see the gardens, orchids everywhere. In Aksu region, you can not only taste the fantastic apples, you can also enjoy the walnuts and also other famous fruits. For this green shelter belt, they actually provide the precondition for the villagers to live their own life and bring wealth to their own life. Just as Mr. B said, all of the efforts and dedication have been paid back. Let's look to the left side. Actually, 30 years ago, there is no such a village. But with the development of the economy, now you can see we have a farmland here. As there is a vast land in Xinjiang, so we can see actually each household, they will make some plantations. They will grow trees on their own. So no matter where you go in Aksu region, you can enjoy the lush mountains and forest. And the weather here is quite good. In the western, in most of the regions, after we pass the mid-autumn holiday, the weather gets much cold, but here you can see I'm still wear t-shirts. So it's quite warm here. Now we have arrived at the villager's home. So you may not be familiar with them because these are actually the children from the first generation of the afforestation project. You must know their fathers. And when we are coming to here, we see a lot of trees here. Like 30 years ago, you just planted the seeds of the trees, but now you can see the trees are very tall. They are actually forming the shelter belt in the Aksu region. I feel very happy that all of you are enjoying a better life. So when I was in the car, I have talked about the condition of your family. So what is the annual income for you? Well, it is around 35,000 to 40,000 RMB per year. So what's your name? My name is R.D. Lan. So what does that mean? I know it is a Uyghur name. So what is the meaning of your name? Very beautiful name. So in the southern region of Xinjiang, so for this courtyard is quite typical. So for each household, they will have this kind of courtyard. They will grow grapes. So when people are welcoming guests, so all of them will sit underneath the grapes. So it is actually a custom in the local region. So we have to take off our shoes. Maybe you can taste some of the fruits. These are actually the achievements from the afforestation project. You can taste the apples, the grapes, walnuts, or dates. All of these fruits are actually coming out from our own orchard. So for the areas, the plantation areas of dates, it has already exceeded 1.4 million mu in this region. So we are actually growing pears, walnuts, grapes, apples. These are the signature fruits in this region. We have arranged over 4 million mu to grow these fruits. Actually, the revenue generated from those fruits already accounts for 1/3 of the average revenue for the farmer's income. And we also see a rapid development of the orchard. And this actually brings benefits for the well-being of the people. And we have gradually improved the ecological conditions and the living environment for the local people. And we are also trying to develop the rivers in the Aksu regions. For the local people, they speak highly of the afforestation project as well as the ecological projects that has been taken place in recent years. And we do see an improvement of the living standards of the local people. And of course, they have received more income every year. And the development of the forestry and the orchard has also helped to expand the development of other industries in Aksu region. We see more visitors in Aksu region. And some of the orchards and forests have become a top destination for tourism. After I retired, I had never went back to Aksu. And actually, it is my first time to come back to this region to see some of the progress of the afforestation project. I still remember this land used to be a wasteland. We don't see the green cliff and the green gobi. Everywhere, just a barren land. And today, I see a different Aksu. I see the apples, the grapes, let's check out this one. And also we have the walnut. So we can see all of these fruits has helped to lift the living standards for the local people and improve their lives. This can lift the poverty people out of poorish condition. Thanks to the green shelterbelt, it can help to protect and resist the sandstorm. We can tell everyone is very excited today. And for the theme of today's live streaming is talk about the spirit and the story of the Kokyar. We have talked about a lot about the geographical condition for Kokyar. 30 years ago, the saline alkaline percentage is around 2.8%. So what does that mean? Meaning that if 2.8% of the soil contains saline and alkaline, so there's no way that you can grow plants or vegetables or fruits. We have to control the alkaline percentage in order to improve the soil condition. So we will show you a footage to give you more knowledge about Kokyar. So this is what it looks like for Kokyar 30 years ago. At that time, we have 37 ravines in Kokyar region. And 13 large ravines. So for the altitude, it's actually higher than Aksu, so that's why Kokyar suffered from the sandstorms at that time. So each year when we have the monsoon season, Kokyar will suffer from a very huge and severe sandstorms every year. And also for the level of the wind is also very high. It will destroy the plants that we have grown at that time. We have tried to improve the soil conditions so that we can grow plants. However, it is very difficult to do that. And some of our leaders even ask us if we have the confidence to turn the soil much better. I've noticed that the desertification is very severe in this region. So every year, we have increased the land of desert by 5 meters. And if we do not build a green shelter belt, the whole city will be covered by sand, and in the end, it will turn into the desert. The desertification moves every year, so it is very dangerous. If we didn't start the afforestation project, it's very difficult to imagine what it looks like in Kokyar today. So it is not just about money. We are not building the green shelter belt to increase our income. Instead, we are actually trying to survive under such a terrible condition. Nowadays, we see the orchards and the plants. However, 30 years ago, we are not sure if we can turn this land. If we look back to the past, we understand that there are a lot of difficulties. But fortunately, with our strong wills and dedications, we have won the battle. Because of the difficult geographical condition in Kokyar, even planting trees is very difficult. Can you share with us some of the difficulties that you have encountered in 30 years ago? For example, where you find the water? Well, we can get some water. However, the soil condition in this region is not very well, because some of the soil is covered by saline and alkaline. Then we put a lot of water inside of the soil. We are trying to change the condition. Actually, 30 years ago, there is a lack of water in Kokyar. Maybe nowadays the condition gets better. However, 30 years ago, we see limited rainfall. That's why we see limited resources of water. Well, the rainfall is around 100 millimeter. However, the evaporation is around 1500 millimeter. So it's very difficult to find water in this region. So for those limited resources, we have to arrange it properly. We have to set out priorities. If we want to use the water to feed the people, or we want to use this water to grow plants. So at that time, we also trying to ditch some gaps, and we are trying to get some water. However, with limited water resources, we have to make a reasonable plan. And especially the soil is highly condensed with the saline and the alkaline. We will divide the land average, and each one of the members will be responsible for certain pieces of land, and they have to come out with a measure to deal with the land and to improve the condition of the soil. So it's very difficult for them to grow the trees at that time because we severely lack of water. So I will show you more pictures. And here I'm holding a rock, or I would say a block of soil. Suffered by several years of sandstorm, you can see the soil has become into a rock. Throughout the years, you can see the soil is very hard, and can you imagine how to grow trees in such kind of soil? So in the past, when we try to plant trees, we have to plant trees in such kind of soil. So we have to dig this kind of soil to make it more softer, and then we will put some water to further soften the soil. And some of them, they're also driving tractors in order to make the soil much softer. We're just using the plow and dig on the soil very hardly in order to make them much soft. So now you can see some of the footage in the past. You can see the sandstorm is very heavy, but for those people, they're very dedicated in their work.
近210万人次进行了39次荒沙绿化的这样大会战，从刚开始的1年1次春季植树，一直到后来1年2次春季植树。其实我觉得它的种树这个植树季也非常的短啊，它1年能种树的天数有几天呢？还是有几个月呢？因为这个植树多的人节节性非常强的。
So at that time, we have over 2.1 million people working together for the afforestation project. And each year, they will do a tree planting for at least 39 times.
只有20天的时间。那你们第1年的时候种下去了多少树？
第1年的我们得是了。
So every 20 days, we will do a round of tree planting. At that time, we are targeting to plant trees for 1,300 mu. So can you give us some reasoning on planting the trees at that time? Well, because at that time we have so many lands that are in high percentage of saline and alkaline, so we have to plant more trees.
斜降阳呢，这水中很有特色。这斜降早些，它上的高，水中也好，但是从河里
So we have to dig holes
那行，
on the soil
当时
and try to put the seeds inside of the
斜
soil.
降阳死了，我有胡杨来代替，我会教练，结果以后就给我管理跟我说的，斜降阳胡杨都活了，啥的还不好。
当时真的是啊，是要是新疆羊死了，那还有胡杨挺着；如果胡杨活不了，那还有新疆羊至少在那儿挺着，是吧？结果两个都活了。我觉得当时确实是树怎么种下去是面临的第一个难题，是我们要啃的第一块硬骨头。那树种下去以后，怎么保证它能活下去？这个伊玛目老站长，您是不是还记得？怎么让它活下去？
啊，就是关乎。
So at the beginning, we are trying to plant trees, and also we will trying to raise some animals in this region.
当天栽树以后，浇工了以后，马上开始浇水，白天晚上浇水。像去那个地方浇水的时候，一年32日，我们干部5个，一共30。白天晚上，工人也这个不会干，我也不会干。
We have to make sure that we have enough water to plant the trees. So we have to water the trees at least 3 times a day.
继续搞完，继续这个木头的浇完以后，第二天、第三天还栽树了嘛，上面几千个人栽树嘛，栽树那个100亩嘛，200亩嘛，就栽完以后马上开始浇水。第一个办法是浇水，保证浇水。第二个是把浇完以后。
So we have to water the trees every day.
这个土太硬了，不松土的话也不行。啊，好不了不行，好不了。我这么交代我们的党，这么交代我们国家，这么交代我们。
So at the beginning, we will water the trees for 5 consecutive days, and then we have to soften the soil. That's the second step.
以后这个青蒿了，当年那个青蒿的嘛，我们这个6月底我们说的是，这个沿江一般的地方，平均青蒿的87.5%，这么高。沿江比较太轻了，没沿江朝阳坡的青蒿的98%，青蒿的过出来以后，长也高，特别高，长也。我们说，我们两个我们说，很满意他，地域领导也很满意我们。
真的是当年的成活率，我们要想的话，可能是会经过几年这样反复的失败呀、反复的实验呀。因为我们知道柯柯牙这个风口向它挑战，不光是从这一代人。
As I've just mentioned, that the percentage of the alkaline in the soil is quite high. It's very difficult to make the trees alive.
到我们解放初期的时候，都有人尝试过这样的工程，但是无一例外的全部都失败了。所以大家当时的压力不仅要面对这个，非常
So actually, start from this generation.
严峻的自然条件，还有就是大
So
家
we start the work of
要
afforestation.
面对失败的这
So
种挫败
actually,
感，是吧？吕中
back
不
in
能
Qing
让大家再
dynasty,
有这种挫败感了，是这样的，对，确实。
they are working
那
on the
个作为第
afforestation
一代的
project,
这个护林
but
员，
due
你有什么
to
最
the
难忘的
adverse
事情？
conditions in Kokyar region, all of them fail. So you can tell these people, they are actually bearing very huge pressure to do the work. So even though they fail, they continue to fight against. So any special stories from you? Because you're the first generation of the forestry protection. We actually mobilized the forces from the society. For the residents and also the soldiers and the villagers living by this site, they all gear up to help us with the afforestation project. And we also have people from different minority groups to join us for the afforestation. And I have a second keyword for you, it's green. And for this picture, you can see 4 photos here. Let's take this one by one. So this is actually arranged by time. The first photo shows a photo in 1986, 1995, 2006. So you can see in 1986, it is completely a barren land. However, in 1994, you see some green. Now, 20 years later, when we come to 2006, we see more greens here. And nowadays, you can see all of the Kokyar region is covered with greenery. And then, as you can see, the last picture, all of the region of this area is covered by greenery. So what do you think, what drives the change? This is actually in line with the arrangement proposed by the 18th National Congress of the CPC. We have strictly followed the guidance of the General Secretary of China. So at that time, a green development philosophy was proposed. And at that time, we are dedicated to build Kokyar into an ecological center. Actually, we already started the afforestation project before 2012. However, I have to emphasize the spirit of Kokyar, which is the self-dependence, forge ahead with joint efforts, hardworking and enterprising spirit, as well as the wholehearted dedication. So everyone is following this kind of spirit to build out Kokyar. And with the development of the Kokyar region, we also bring benefits to the villages. We can see a very good performance of the ecological project that has been implemented in Kokyar region. And we also improve the economy in this region. And in the Kokyar region, we have 15% was covered by the green shelterbelt. With the development of the Kokyar region, we can also improve the life of our villages. At the same time, we also see a very well development of our tourism. For example, some of the ecological orchard and forest, they have become the most popular tourism site for the visitors here. And we're also trying to plant fungus in this region. So all of this will help to increase the income for the farmers. So with the development of the orchard industry, so indeed it helped to improve the living standards for the villagers. And at the end of 2014, we have initiated a new ecological project which further improved the conditions in the Kokyar region. So the main measure we are taking is to plant trees in the desertified region. And the second is continue to build the green shelter belt.
柯柯牙工程之所以称它是一个非常伟大的工程，我觉得除了这些奇迹般的成就之外，更重要的是当年在80年代末的时候。
And also, we are trying to do something to protect the environment in this area.
是在没有任何国家立项，然后也没有任何资金保障，所有的人员没有任何劳动报酬，当时还没有大型基建这样的一个状态下启动的。它完全是由咱们当地各族居民自力更生、团结一心创造出来的奇迹。那另外一个，我觉得特别值得让我们致敬和点赞的呢， 是从开始
When we
到
first
现在
start the
阿克苏
afforestation
当地已经
project,
历任了7届领导，是吧？
we
人
don't
走
have
一
any
批
project
但
funds.
是
We
真正
also
做到
don't
的
have
人
any
走
large-scale
这么
mechanical
细。不管
equipment.
是谁来
And for the
当
people
书
who are
记
working in these
当地
projects,
马
they
首
will
当
not
然的，但
receive
是
any
书记一
payment.
定是共同
So
兼
at
任
that
主
time,
持
it's just a
科克雅荒漠
self-initiated
绿化
project
1期、2期
for the
甚至
villages in
3
the
期
local
工
area.
程建设的总指挥者。所以这样的话，我们就可以知
And
道
we also
为什么
see
会这么
7
多
generations
人
who have
一以
been
贯
working
之
for
地
the
把这个绿色从
afforestation
没有
project.
到有，从1点到了这么大的面积。而且，前几天我在采访
No
我们
matter
现
who
任的
is
这个
the
阿克苏地理书记
leader,
杜万贵同志
so
的时候，
they
他
have to
就
strictly
说
follow the
我说你是
afforestation project to
怎么样是
complete
做到了
the
这个绿地
different
下这
phases
么
for the
多。
project.
然后窦书记说，现在他们找到了一把钥匙，这把钥匙就是政
So
府推
we
动
have
市
turned
场
the
化
desert into
让
oasis.
所有的
At the
老
beginning,
百
we
姓
see
参与
nothing
过来。
in
我
such
记
a
得当
barren
时
land,
大家
but
在
now
推
we
行这
see
个绿化
lush
种植的时候，
mountains
除
and
了防风
trees.
林之外，那就是经济林每亩地有15块钱的补助，对吧？
I
然后
used
呢，
to
树苗是免费提供的，
interview one of the
然后这个技术免费提供，
leaders in the
水
Kokyar
免费
region. I
就
asked
这
him,
样保证
how
了
can you
大
make
家的
it?
积极性超高啊！大家都争着去种地，争着去种树，哪怕在荒原都有信心去把这
So
个
he
荒
said
原开
that
了，我就把树
it
种
is
在那儿，因
actually
为我
a
知道
joint
之
effort
后有一个
from
强大的后盾，
everyone.
我的树一
We
定
will
能活，
provide
我的生
seeds
活一定会
to
影响
all of our
所以
villages,
在
and we will help them to
慢
grow
慢
the
的，阿
trees.
克苏人
If they
会发现自己
successfully
的
grow
生活当中
trees
又多了
up
一
to
个色
certain
彩，
scale,
就是红
so
色。
each of
我
the
们来看
villager they will
这个，
receive
现
some
在阿克苏被称为新疆
allowance.
的大果
So
盘儿。我们
this
今
can
天还在
help
现
to
场也专门
mobilize
为我们的
everyone
网友
to
准备
help
了几
to
个大果盘儿。我们
dedicate
看
in the
红色的苹
afforestation
果，
project.
红色的葡萄，
Everyone
还有
believes
红色
their
的大
life
枣。
can
当然
get，
阿克苏
better
的好东西不
throughout
止
the
这
years.
些，像我们头顶上的这个葡萄架也有绿色的葡萄，但真的是
And
这种
gradually,
红色的果
people
实
will
是
spot
点亮了大家心中的一个希望。
some red color in their life. Let's check out this fruit dish.
向哪个方向去努力，才能获得
So we can see the
现在
red
这种
apples, red
这个
dates,
丰收的色
as
彩
well
已
as
经
the
越来越
purple
多了，是吧？
grapes.
这个有一个数据是说，阿克苏林果收入占到了农民纯收入
So
的
for these apples,
32%，
they're actually
比
like a
还要
highlight
多。真的
in
是
this
今后可能
region.
它的比重
It
还会
also
越来越增
represents
加，它的占比会越来越大。那
the
除了这个
improved
变化之外，我觉得
life for the
还是想问一
villages.
下李主任啊，
It also
就是
casts
我
hope
知道
for
您
their
在
future.
来农办这个岗位之前呢，也是我们在这个水利部门工作了30多年的一个老水利人。那阵儿
As we
和
just
现在的
mentioned
水
that
资源有变化吗？
32% of the income of a villager actually coming from growing these fruits.
根据国家的要求，要求各行各业总量控制。我们现在总的做法就是，每一个流域灌区用水质量要进行。
In the past, we have limited resources of water,
但是我们现在
and we also implement a water management plan to better utilize the water resources.
就是压缩农业大耕节水建设的一环，把农业的节约的水量置换调节到生态和过于用水。一方面，这个荒漠治理用水要稳定；另一方面，对林过夜发展经济。
Currently, in the agricultural region, we use most part of the water resources. So we also have to fight against the water conservation to make sure that we have enough resources to grow these plants and fruits.
长远的事关未来的这样一个话题，可能有的时候生态给我们带来的效益是我们要慢慢去感受的，它不像有一
So
些
the
这个
purpose is to help
企
to
业带来的
increase the
效益很
income
直
for the
接和
farmers.
快然后大家在这个利益的当中，它是要有一种权衡的，是吧？是需要这种短平快
And
的
in Aksu
经济
region, we
增长
also
还有
take
这
a
种
series
稳
of
稳
actions
长远
to
的
help to
生态
protect
的
the
经济增
environment
长
and
这也是
resources.
值得提
For example,
当时
lately we just
相
shut
信
down
包括
some of the
在
enterprises.
高工在内的很多阿
who have used oversized energies.
当时会有纠结，觉得会有争议嘛？大家的意见，我想可能也不一定对
So
我会那么
sometimes you
统一
have to
是不是会有
find a
争议
balance.
说这些企业是要停还是不要停？
So we have to consider whether we want to achieve a short-term profit or a long-term profit.
这个实际上启动这个工程呢，还是有故事的。当时呢，我们的公安局书记到阿克市做工作调研，我们是一起和我们地方呢书记到那一镇。当时在路上呢，书记就出了一个题目就是继阿克苏柯克雅生态工程建设完成之后，我们阿克苏的生态工程怎么推进，怎么在选择在合适的区域做这项工作。当时提出来以后呢，我们当时这个就现任的这个林业厅的党组书记李东松同志当时是我们地委的秘书长我们就是跟着陪同书记去调研。当时在车上呢。
Earlier, we have initiated the ecological project in Aksu region, and we also have identified which regions are of the high priorities for us.
确定了这个阿克苏市以阿克苏市为主的阿克苏和100万亩生态工程建设，涉及到温宿县、乌石县、阿克苏市两个县市。那么阿克苏段呢，当时启动这个工程的时候阿克苏和西大桥大概。
We have several rounds of discussions,
这个地方呢是长期。
and then we evaluate the conditions in Aksu region.
小作坊为主的，大概有个1000多家企业，小企业生产这个废旧地膜的，这个搞榨油厂的，确实对周边的环境污染非常厉害。它那个污水基本上是到处都是流的，直接排放到河里面空气质量非常差。当时呢，这些企业因为启动。
And we have finally identified that in the Aksu City region, we will try to develop the land of 700 mu.
关停了很多开采，后期的规划关停了很多，所以在生态文明建设的选择上和经济的发展上这一对矛盾体上，地委的态度是非常坚定，尤其我们公安局书记在位。
And for some of the companies, if they are not compliant, we have to shut them down because we have to save energies as well as the resources in the Aksu region.
排放不达标吧，排放也不达，所以我们在短短的2个月的时间，把这将近1000家的小作坊企业全部进行。我记得是当初那一年呢，是在14年的春节前，就是冬天。
So to sum up, we think the long-term profit is our goal. We have to think of our future generations. And in one winter, we have resolved all of these problems. We have removed some of the companies that was built alongside by the shelterbelt. So we have to maintain a balance between the ecological protection as well as the economic development.
最重要的是有担当2个字，是吧？要敢于担当，有敢于负责这样的一种精神和情怀，否则的话，可能很多事情都干不了。我觉得是非常可贵的是，这么多年过去了，这种精神还一直持续到现在。 我们再来看第3段视频。
So as you can see that currently we see Kokyar in a very good condition. However, that really needs efforts from several generations. Everyone needs to be accountable for this achievement.
这样的画面在延续着一种柯克牙的精神，建设的热潮 每年春秋两季的时候，还会有大量的人吃在地头，是吧？干在地头，把这个绿色一点一点的往外延伸。
Now we have seen an improvement for the green land in Aksu and the Kokyar region. However, we have not stopped our efforts. Just as what we said, the clear waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets.
那现在的人，我觉得能在这种精神下，能把这个蓝图绘得更美好，也更值得我们尊重。我前几天看到了一句话，就是我们的老书记，就最早的谢富平老书记。
So today we only have Mr. B and here, but actually there were thousands of people who are not here today, but still we have to show our respect to them.
绿化祖国，人人都有不可推卸的责任和义务。如果我们的思想都统一到这方面来，那么没有钱可以有钱，没有人可以有人，没有地可以有地，没有水可以有水。我想呢，正是因为这样的精神，柯柯牙才会从一种不可能变成了可能，现在有了这么多的绿色。那
I still remember some of the words
还是想问一下，包括彭工啊
that are from one of the leaders from the afforestation project. He's saying that everyone is accountable to make the world much better, to make our motherland much better.
现在我们阿克苏正在做什么呢？
So, with their wholehearted dedication, that we turn the impossible to possible in Kokyar region.
让大家有一种什么样的感受呢？大家聊聊看吧。现在我们阿克苏未来的规划是什么样？
那个总书记讲，这个绿水青山就是金山银山，确实在阿克苏呢，我们的体会是非常深的，因为我们感受到了这个生态环境建设啊，生态文明建设给阿克苏人民带来的好处啊，不光是生态的效益、社会的效益，更重要的是经济的效益，可持续，经济社会可持续。
So, can you share with us some of the future plan for Kokyar?
我们阿克苏地区呢，现在考虑呢，你看这个农场100万亩，这个生态工程建设呢是今年刚刚启动，今年春季开始启动。我们计划呢在2020年完成你看这个农场的100万亩，这是这个完成以后呢，
So, we will strive for a sustainable development in the Kokyar region. We also have to try to find a balance between the ecological development as well as the economic development.
主要是3大绿洲啊，3大绿洲，一个呢就是阿克苏河流域这个生态绿洲，第二个呢就是维干河流域的生态绿洲，第三个呢就是塔里木河的生态绿洲。实际上从农业的布局上来讲，我们就是。
So, by we will complete it, the initial phase for the afforestation project, and we also want to build out 3 oases in Kokyar region.
高压就是自流滴灌的这种方式发展苹果叶啊，而且生态类。塔里木河这个流域呢，主要是生态类的这个胡杨林的天然胡杨林面积啊，480万。
So we will do some desertification control by the Aksu River as well as the Weigan River, and we will plant more forest and plant more trees by that side.
同时呢，我们也考虑就是结合这个乡村战略、振兴战略的实施啊，我们现在在村里面每个村呢都做了规划，尤其是村庄的绿化提出来村庄的绿化呢不采用绿化土，而采用种植一些果树啊，适合本地生长的一些开花的。
So we will grow more bushes in the 48,000 mu region by the Weigan River.
抓住不放啊，也是按照乡村振兴战略生态宜居嘛啊，产业兴旺、生态宜居相互。
And for the afforestation in the village, we will encourage the farmers to build their own orchards to grow fruits. For example, they can grow some pear trees, some apple trees to make the village much greener. This is also one of the measures that we can realize the rural revitalization. The ecological civilization is also one of the key. Maybe in the future we can also recommend some high-quality fruits to people from different sections of China. In the future, we will introduce more new varieties and try to plant those varieties locally. And also, we will try out some advanced technologies. We will learn from some of the famous universities and academies in China to see if we can make those fruits much more better. This is what we call a cycling economy. We will protect our environment, and also we have very good weather here. All of these are actually favorable conditions for us to grow our own fruits.
哎，说了半天这个冰糖心儿啊，就是我们能不能让大家看看什么是真正的冰糖心儿呢？对，这有个什么小刀啊什么的，把它切一下嘛。对，然后那个我现在呢，这儿还准备了一些数据哈。
It is quite dry in the weather, and also we have fewer insects. For all of these fruits, we will use less fertilizers, so all of these fruits are quite organic and taste much better than other fruits.
林地总面积，林果叶是450万亩，对，是它的占比也是非常的大。那经过这么多年，它的生态也有很大的改善。除了经济繁荣之外，现在城市的绿化覆盖率达到了45.2%，沙尘天气呢也是明显的减少。2017年阿克苏全年空气优良天数是159天。优良率达到了43.7%。
So currently, the total area of the orchard in Kokyar is around 13.9 million mu. It is quite large.
那现在呢，我们在柯柯牙绿化工程实施10年之后呢，就获得了联合国授予的全球500佳境这样的一个称号。现在呢，也被评为一系列的这个国家园林绿化城市呀、森林城市呀，而且还有中国人居环境范例奖等等一系列的荣誉，真的是想象我们在这个沙漠的边缘啊，这样一座天然
And the high quality rate
是非常的不容易。
has been increased by 11.2 percentage point.
就是在这个直播刚开始的时候，我就给，没事儿，您来，您到这儿来，来，给您个刀子。可以把它削成片儿，我们大家都可以尝一尝。我把这个收了。
Can you give us more introduction about this kind of apple?
这个果肉是红色的。
对。
你看，真正要会吃苹果，是一定要这么就是横着切啊，不是竖着切。你看啊。 这个就是糖豆凝聚的这个糖点是吗？我听说天气热的话，它会化，真的会化开吗？
如果是温度高了，它会慢慢散掉；温度低了，它不会散。这个它是经常就是咱们这个是日光照下，在那个温差大积累的冰糖，叫冰糖心。
You can see it's red inside.
那给大家切成片分一分呗。
好。现在很凉，你看这冰糖心是吧？这现在有点高，它的程度聚不到。如果是现在是10月的26号这样。
霜打之后它会更好。
如果搁到这9月，如果搁到10月26号，它的冰糖出来。
对，这个苹果
Because of this high differences in the temperature from day and night, that's why we can grow this variety of apples in Aksu region.
它这个冰糖心是怎么积累的？它是白天，它属于要，它这个是生命的东西，白天要吸收的营养呢，它晚上的温度太低了，它放不出去，放出去就积累成糖。可是这个积累呀，在时间上也可能找不到，时间它温差达不到，它晚上白天吸收的多。
And also, you can preserve this kind of apples for a longer time. In the daytime, the sunlight is very strong. However, in the evening, the temperature drops.
尝尝看甜不甜呐？告诉网友一个好消息啊！现在正值我们阿克苏苹果大丰收，也是刚刚上市的时候。这个时候买阿克苏的苹果是既新鲜又好吃，价格还非常公道。哎，我想问问彭工啊，像现在这样的苹果在我们市场上卖多少钱1公斤啊？
市场上我们这边这个批发的价格大概在8块钱1公斤。如果是在超市里头
Mr. B, please taste the apple. It's very delicious.
我们阿克苏的苹果最远卖到了什么地方？
阿克苏的苹果那个北面是到吉尔吉斯，到那个哈萨克斯坦出国的，南面我们到北上广都有。
是这样。如果我们广大的网友就特别想吃阿克苏的苹果，是通过什么渠道能够快速的买到呢？哦，蜜蜂都来了，
So for the wholesale price, it is around 8 RMB per
很快就来
kilogram.
了一个蜜蜂。
阿克苏苹果就是我们那个有那个以红旗坡为龙头的这个苹果产业协会，在全国各地这个特别大的都有。点击阿克苏苹果或者点击这个红旗坡苹果都可以进入我们的网购渠道，是最快的渠道。
现在已经通过网络也是走遍天下了。
是。然后我们那个专营店这块像广州、上海、杭州、北京这块都有我们的直营店，红旗坡苹果的直营店。
哎呀，真的是，喜欢吃苹果的朋友一定要快下手啊！谢谢。哎呀，蜜蜂又来了，你看这个苹果到哪儿，蜜蜂就哪儿。我还没下口呢，蜜蜂就先下口了。你看，又来了一个蜜蜂，真的是。哎呀，我都不忍心吃了，算了，让它先吃一会儿吧，让这个蜜蜂先吃一会儿吧，我待会儿再吃。你看，还有这种红心儿的苹果，多好看啊，都舍不得吃了，感觉。哎，其实我这样做也不太好，就是广大的网友只能看又吃不着，我还一个劲儿的在这馋大家，也确实是有点不太仁义。所以呢，我也不吃了，先暂时压一压我的蚕虫，待会儿再吃。但是真的是也非常感谢广大的网友能够参与和收看我们这场的直播。这场直播包括这场直播前的我在阿克苏的这几天，真的是我的心情一直是在一种深深的感动之中。这种感动呢，源于这些老一辈的建设者，他们是这个奇迹的创造者，也是值得我们为他们致敬的人。我也感动这种 自力更生的柯柯牙精神一直能够代代相传，薪火不息，一直传到现在，并且我们还会知道它会一直继续的传下去，真的是这样的感动。我一直觉得柯柯牙的绿化工程，它是一场人和自然、人定胜天、挑战自然、改善生态这样的一场战争。用战争一点都不夸张。我觉得从打响柯柯牙绿化工程的第一枪声响、第一声号角响起的时候，一直到现在，这个跟自然较劲的这个会长期的持续。
So this is the spirit for them to fight against the nature. But we have always saying that human beings will conquer the nature because they have a much better spirit. They have their joint efforts. They are self-dependent. They are using their enterprising spirit and hardworking spirit to conquer the difficulties that was presented by the nature. We witness all of these different miracles. We're actually respecting the nature. We are trying to do our utmost to conquer the difficulties. Just as what President Xi has stated in the Economic Working Forum, is saying, with a continuous and consistent efforts, we can change our ecological conditions. And today, we have told you the story of Kokyar. So this is actually the spirit from Kokyar. I believe in the future, with the joint efforts of Kokyar, we will maintain the clear waters and the lush mountains. So all of these are sustainable. In the end, I have prepared the last footage for you so that you can see the beautiful scenery of Kokyar today. So we have come to the end of our live streaming. And today's live streaming is from Aksu. Please enjoy the last footage. Please show our respect to everyone who are living here.